Have you ever wondered why sexual sins have the power to destroy even the strongest of souls? What dark spiritual forces are unleashed when we cross these forbidden boundaries? Padre Pio, who could see into the depths of human souls during confession, revealed something terrifying. These sins have the power to corrupt not just our bodies, but our very spirits, opening doorways that may never be closed. My dear brothers and sisters, today we're going to discuss 4 specific sexual sins that Padre Pio identified as spiritual death traps. These aren't just moral failings, they are spiritual weapons that the enemy uses to destroy families, corrupt societies, and claim souls for eternal damnation. The 4th sin, which we'll reveal later, was so severe that Padre Pio said it could corrupt generations. During his years of ministry, Padre Pio encountered thousands of souls trapped in these spiritual snares. He witnessed firsthand how these particular sins had the power to break not just human relationships, but the very connection between a soul and God. And these sins, he would say, create wounds in the soul that continue to bleed long after the act is committed. Before we continue, I invite you to write in the comments, Padre Pio, protect us. Your comment will help spread this crucial warning to others who are walking dangerously close to these spiritual precipices. What you're about to learn isn't just about morality, it's about understanding the devastating spiritual warfare that's targeting your soul through sexual temptation. In an age where sexual sin is not only accepted but celebrated, Padre Pio's warnings become more urgent than ever. These 4 specific sins act like spiritual poisons, slowly corrupting not just individuals, but entire families and communities. They enter our lives subtly, often disguised as natural desires or personal choices, but their consequences are eternal. What makes these sins particularly dangerous is their ability to cloud our spiritual vision. Padre Pio observed that the more deeply someone fell into these sins, the harder it became for them to recognize their spiritual danger. Like a spiritual blindness, these sins create a false sense of normalcy while slowly destroying the soul's ability to respond to God's grace. You might be wondering why these particular sins carry such severe spiritual consequences. Today, through Padre Pio's profound insights, you'll understand not just the what, but the why. Why these sins have the power to separate souls from God's grace, and more importantly, how to find freedom if you're trapped in their grasp. As we explore these difficult truths, remember, God's mercy is always available to the truly repentant heart. But first, we must understand the grave danger these sins pose to our eternal souls. Of all the sexual sins that Padre Pio encountered in the confessional, adultery carried a unique weight of spiritual destruction. He would often say to those who confessed this sin, the infidelity of the flesh creates a tear in the soul that only divine mercy can heal. Let's understand why this sin holds such devastating power over the human spirit. Adultery isn't just the physical act of betrayal, it's a spiritual weapon that Satan uses to destroy what God himself established as sacred. When God created marriage, he designed it as a reflection of Christ's relationship with his church. Every act of adultery doesn't just break a human covenant. It mocks this divine image. Padre Pio witnessed countless souls destroyed by this sin. During confession, he could see the spiritual wounds that adultery created, wounds that went far deeper than emotional pain. He described these wounds as bleeding gates, through which demonic influences could enter not just the adulterer's life, but their entire family's spiritual well-being. Consider this sobering truth. In all his years of ministry, Padre Pio noted that adulterers often experienced the most terrifying moments at death. They see, he would say, the full impact of their betrayal, not just against their spouse, but against God himself. This is why Jesus' words about adultery were so severe. Anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. The spiritual consequences of adultery extend far beyond the moment of sin. Padre Pio observed that adulterers often experienced a progressive spiritual blindness. The first act of infidelity was usually accompanied by intense guilt, but with each subsequent betrayal, the conscience became increasingly numb. This spiritual numbness, he warned, was more dangerous than the sin itself, as it led souls to mistake God's patience for approval. But the destruction doesn't stop with the individual. Adultery releases spiritual forces that corrupt entire families. Children of adulterers, Padre Pio noted, often carried spiritual wounds they couldn't explain, a generational impact of their parents' sin. These wounds manifested as difficulties in trusting, loving, or maintaining their own faithful relationships. The story of King David serves as a powerful warning. His adultery with Bathsheba set in motion a series of events that brought tragedy to his entire kingdom. One moment of weakness led to lies, murder, and ultimately the death of his child. Even after his repentance and God's forgiveness, David faced the earthly consequences of his sin for the rest of his life. Yet, even in the face of such a grave sin, Padre Pio offered hope. He witnessed remarkable transformations in repentant adulterers who sought God's mercy with sincere hearts. The key, he said, was understanding the full spiritual gravity of the sin. When someone truly comprehends how adultery wounds Christ himself, he would say, their repentance becomes a powerful force for healing. For those struggling with temptation, Padre Pio prescribed specific spiritual weapons: frequent confession, daily prayer, and a deep devotion to the Blessed Mother. He knew that victory over sexual sin required more than human willpower. It demanded a complete surrender to divine grace. Remember, my dear brothers and sisters, adultery begins in the heart long before it manifests in action. That's why Padre Pio urged his spiritual children to guard their thoughts and eyes with extreme vigilance. In our next segment, we'll discuss another sexual sin that often paves the way for adultery, one that our modern world has tragically normalized. The second sexual sin that Padre Pio warned about might shock many modern Christians: fornication or sexual relations outside of marriage. This sin, Padre Pio would say, has become so common that souls no longer recognize its deadly venom. In his mystic visions, he saw how this sin created spiritual wounds that could take generations to heal. What makes fornication particularly dangerous in our times is its widespread acceptance. Even within Christian communities, many have begun to view it as a minor transgression, if they consider it a sin at all. But Padre Pio's insights reveal a terrifying spiritual reality behind this seemingly normal behavior. During confession, he could see how each act of fornication left invisible scars on the soul, scars that made it increasingly difficult for a person to form a genuine, holy marriage in the future. The spiritual damage of fornication goes far deeper than most realize. Padre Pio observed that this sin created a type of spiritual bondage, an invisible chain that linked souls together in ways that persisted long after the physical relationship ended. Each person you unite with outside of marriage, he warned, takes a piece of your soul, and you take a piece of theirs. These spiritual fragments can torment souls for years, even after conversion. Modern psychology has only recently begun to understand what Padre Pio saw clearly through spiritual eyes: the deep emotional and psychological wounds caused by casual sexual relationships. But he saw something even more alarming: how fornication opened doorways for demonic influence in a person's life. These influences often manifested as increasingly intense sexual temptations, relationship difficulties, and a progressive hardening of the heart toward God. Padre Pio would often share the story of a young woman who came to him for confession. She had lived a sexually active lifestyle before marriage and couldn't understand why her marriage was now falling apart. Through his spiritual gifts, Padre Pio revealed to her how her past sexual sins had created spiritual barriers that were now preventing her from fully bonding with her husband. The body may forget, he explained, but the soul remembers every transgression against its purity. The saint's teachings on fornication were particularly urgent because he saw how this sin often led to more severe sexual transgressions. It acted as a gateway, gradually desensitizing the soul to sexual sin, while creating an increasingly insatiable appetite for pleasure. This spiritual hunger, he noted, could never be satisfied through physical means, leading many souls into darker and more destructive behaviors. Yet, even for this sin, Padre Pio offered hope. He witnessed countless souls find complete healing and restoration through sincere repentance and the sacraments. The key, he emphasized, was understanding fornication not just as a physical act, but as a spiritual violation. When you comprehend how this sin wounds the Sacred Heart of Jesus, he would say, true repentance becomes possible. For those struggling with this sin, Padre Pio prescribed specific spiritual remedies: regular confession, daily prayer, fasting, and a special devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. He understood that overcoming sexual temptation required both divine grace and human effort. Don't fight this battle on your knees, he would advise, because the enemy of purity can only be defeated through prayer. As we conclude this discussion on fornication, remember that God's mercy is always available to the truly repentant heart. But we must also heed Padre Pio's urgent warning. The normalization of this sin in our society doesn't diminish its spiritual consequences. Each act of fornication is a serious wound to the soul, a betrayal of God's plan for human sexuality, and a step away from eternal salvation. My dear brothers and sisters, I can sense in my heart that these revelations from Padre Pio about sexual sins have deeply touched your soul. Many of you are probably wondering, how can I protect myself and my loved ones from these spiritual dangers? What prayers and practices did Padre Pio recommend for those struggling with these temptations? It's precisely for this reason that we've prepared something special for you. Los Secretos Espirituales de San Padre Pio, a powerful spiritual guide that contains the saint's most profound teachings on overcoming sexual temptation and finding true spiritual freedom. This sacred material includes Padre Pio's powerful prayers for protection against sexual sins, his specific spiritual practices for maintaining purity, and deep insights into winning the battle for your soul. You'll discover the exact prayers he recommended to his spiritual children who were fighting these same battles you're facing today. Click the link in the comments section now to access this transformative guide. Remember, Padre Pio said that spiritual warfare requires spiritual weapons, and in this guide, you'll find his most powerful tools for achieving victory over sexual temptation. And now, let us continue with Padre Pio's urgent warnings about the third sexual sin, one that he said has the power to corrupt not just individuals, but entire societies. The third sexual sin that Padre Pio identified as particularly devastating combines two interconnected spiritual poisons: prostitution and uncontrolled lust. And these sins, he would say during spiritual direction, create a darkness in the soul so deep that it can take multiple generations to cleanse. Through his mystical gifts, he could see how these sins created a type of spiritual radiation that contaminated not just the individual, but entire families and communities. What made prostitution especially alarming to Padre Pio was its dual nature of destruction. It corrupts both the provider and the consumer of these services. During confession, he would witness how this sin created a unique type of spiritual wound, different from other sexual sins. It's not just the act itself, he would explain, but the commercialization of God's sacred gift that creates such deep spiritual damage. The spiritual consequences, he observed, were severe. Those involved in prostitution, whether providing or partaking, developed what Padre Pio called spiritual leprosy, a progressive deadening of the soul's ability to perceive God's presence. He could see dark spiritual entities attached to those involved in these practices, entities that would then follow them home and influence their families. But it wasn't just prostitution itself that concerned the saint. He saw how uncontrolled lust, even without physical acts, could create similar spiritual devastation. Lust, Padre Pio would warn, is like a spiritual acid that dissolves the soul's protective barriers. Through his supernatural insight, he witnessed how persistent lustful thoughts created actual channels in the spiritual realm through which demonic influences could enter a person's life. The saint observed a terrifying pattern. Those who gave themselves over to lust eventually lost the ability to experience genuine love. He would describe how the spiritual faculty for love became corrupted, leaving these souls unable to form deep, meaningful relationships. They become like spiritual vampires, he would say, always hungry but never satisfied, consuming others without receiving true nourishment. Padre Pio spoke of a particular case that deeply moved him, a wealthy businessman who regularly engaged with prostitutes. This man came to confession believing his sin was minor, since he was paying for the services. Through his spiritual gifts, Padre Pio revealed to him the vast network of spiritual destruction his actions had created, how each encounter had formed dark spiritual bonds that were affecting not just him, but his children and even his grandchildren. The combination of prostitution and lust, Padre Pio warned, created a particularly dangerous spiritual trap. The more a person engaged in these sins, the more their spiritual vision became distorted, making it increasingly difficult to recognize the severity of their condition. This spiritual blindness often led to a form of addiction that required both divine intervention and intense spiritual warfare to overcome. However, even for these deeply rooted sins, Padre Pio offered hope. He prescribed specific spiritual remedies, intense prayer, regular fasting, and most importantly, a complete break from all occasions of sin. The healing process, he would explain, requires spiritual quarantine, a period of complete separation from anything that might trigger lustful thoughts or desires. For those battling these sins, Padre Pio recommended a particular devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, whom he saw as a powerful ally in the fight for purity. He would often say, "Where Mary's purity is honored, Satan's lust cannot take root." This devotion, combined with regular confession and the Eucharist, formed the foundation of his prescription for spiritual healing. We now arrive at what Padre Pio identified as the most severe category of sexual sins, transgressions so grave that he said they cry out to heaven for vengeance. These sins, involving the corruption of family bonds and the violation of natural law, carried consequences so severe that the saint often witnessed their spiritual effects extending across multiple generations. During his years of ministry, Padre Pio encountered souls who had fallen into these gravest of sins. What he saw through his mystical gifts deeply disturbed him. These sins, he would say, create a type of spiritual nuclear waste that contaminates not just the soul, but the very spiritual territory of a family line. He could see how these transgressions created what he called spiritual mutations, distortions in the soul that could take generations to heal. The corruption of family bonds through incestuous acts particularly grieved Padre Pio. Through his supernatural insight, he witnessed how these sins created spiritual fractures that ran deeper than any other sexual transgression. And when sacred family bonds are perverted, he would explain, it creates a type of spiritual cancer that spreads through the entire family tree. He could see how these sins opened doorways for generational curses and demonic strongholds that would affect families for decades. The violations against natural law, which Padre Pio ranked among the most severe sexual sins, represented what he called a complete rebellion against God's created order. Through his spiritual gifts, he could see how these acts created a unique type of spiritual damage, one that altered the very essence of a person's humanity. But these sins, he would warn us, don't just wound the soul, they begin to erase the divine image in which we were created. The saint observed that these severe sexual sins carried a particularly dangerous spiritual consequence. They could permanently damage a soul's ability to perceive God's presence. He described witnessing souls who had repeatedly engaged in these acts, developing what he called spiritual gangrene, a progressive death of their spiritual sensibilities that made conversion increasingly difficult with each transgression. However, even in these darkest cases, Padre Pio maintained that God's mercy could reach the truly repentant soul. He would share the story of a person who came to him in confession, totally enslaved by these severe sins. Through intense spiritual warfare, combined with sincere repentance and the sacraments, this soul experienced complete liberation. No sin is beyond God's mercy, he would say, but these sins require an extraordinary measure of grace and a complete commitment to spiritual rehabilitation. For those affected by these severe sexual sins, whether directly or through family history, Padre Pio prescribed specific spiritual remedies. He recommended extended periods of fasting, regular exercised water, specific prayers of deliverance, and most importantly, a complete immersion in the sacramental life of the Church. Evangels, the healing from these sins, he would explain, requires nothing less than a total spiritual transformation. The saint emphasized the importance of breaking generational patterns through intentional spiritual warfare. He would often say, these sins must be fought not just in the present, but also in their historical roots. He recommended specific prayers of renunciation and healing masses offered for family lineages affected by these severe transgressions. Padre Pio's final warning about these sins was perhaps his most sobering. Those who die unrepentant of these grave transgressions face the most terrifying spiritual consequences. Yet, he always balanced this warning with hope, reminding us that genuine repentance, combined with the blood of Christ, could cleanse even the deepest spiritual corruption. My dear brothers and sisters, we've journeyed through Padre Pio's profound revelations about the 4 sexual sins that pose the greatest danger to our souls. These aren't just moral guidelines. They are urgent spiritual warnings from a saint who could see the devastating spiritual consequences of sexual sin with his own mystic eyes. Remember how Padre Pio described these sins: adultery, which destroys the sacred covenant of marriage; fornication, which corrupts God's gift of sexuality; prostitution and lust, which enslave the soul; and finally, those gravest sins that distort the very image of God within us. Each of these creates not just physical or emotional consequences, but deep spiritual wounds that can affect generations. But there is hope. Padre Pio's message wasn't just one of warning, it was also one of profound hope in God's mercy. No matter how deep someone has fallen into sexual sin, the blood of Christ has the power to cleanse and restore. The saint witnessed countless souls find complete liberation through sincere repentance and the sacraments. If these teachings have touched your heart, I invite you to take 2 important actions right now. First, write "I choose purity" in the comments below. This declaration becomes a spiritual milestone in your journey. Second, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Your share might be the divine appointment that saves a soul from spiritual destruction. For those seeking deeper spiritual guidance, remember that our ebook, Los Secretos Espirituales de San Padre Pio, is available through the link in the comments. Let Padre Pio's wisdom guide you to complete spiritual freedom. Until we meet again in our next video, may the Virgin Mary protect your purity, and may Padre Pio intercede for your spiritual victory. Did you know there's one day each year when heaven's blessings pour down with extraordinary power upon sacred objects? A day when Our Lady of Mount Carmel opens her maternal hands and showers graces upon those who seek her protection. Today, I want to share with you 5 sacred objects that you should have blessed on July 16th, the feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. These aren't just religious items. They're weapons against darkness, shields of divine protection, and channels of grace that can transform the spiritual atmosphere of your home and your life. If you feel like you need stronger heavenly protection in your life, write in the comments, "Our Lady of Mount Carmel, protect me." Your simple act of faith helps this message reach more souls who desperately need to hear it. But here's what most Catholics don't realize. July 16th isn't just another feast day. It's one of the most powerful dates in the liturgical calendar for receiving Mary's special intercession. On this day, the Queen of Mount Carmel has promised to look with particular tenderness upon those who honor her with devotion and seek her maternal blessing. I'm going to reveal 5 sacred objects that should be blessed on this holy day. Each one carries its own supernatural power, its own promise of heavenly protection. But stay with me until the end, because the 5th object is the most forgotten by Catholics today. Yet it holds the greatest power to shield you from spiritual dangers. Think about your home right now. Think about your family. Are you truly protected from the spiritual battles raging around us? Are you equipped with the sacramentals that heaven itself has given us as weapons against evil? Our Lady of Mount Carmel didn't appear to St. Simon's Stock in 1251 just to give us a nice devotion. She came with promises, with power, with protection that extends beyond this life into eternity. When she handed him the brown scapular and said, "Whoever dies wearing this scapular shall not suffer eternal fire," she was giving us one of the most powerful guarantees ever spoken by heaven. But the scapular is just the beginning. There are 4 other objects that, when blessed on her feast day, become instruments of grace in ways most people never understand. Are you ready to discover what they are? Are you ready to turn your home into a fortress of faith, protected by the very items that heaven has blessed with supernatural power? The spiritual battle is real, my friends. The enemy prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. But we don't have to face him defenseless. Our Lady has given us armor, shields, and weapons. All we need to do is understand what they are and how to use them. July 16th is coming. Will you be prepared? Will you have these 5 sacred objects ready to receive heaven's special blessing? Or will you let another year pass by, missing the extraordinary graces that Our Lady wants to pour out upon you and your family? Let's begin this journey together. Let's discover the forgotten treasures that can change everything about your spiritual life. Before we dive into these 5 powerful objects, we need to understand something crucial. What we're talking about isn't superstition. This isn't about magical thinking or turning sacred items into lucky charms. This is about sacramentals, gifts from God that the Church has blessed for centuries to help us grow closer to heaven. The story begins in 1251, when Our Lady appeared to St. Simon's Stock on Mount Carmel. Picture this moment. A humble monk, devoted to Mary, suddenly finds himself face to face with the Mother of God herself. She didn't come empty-handed. She came bearing the brown scapular and a promise that would echo through eternity. "Receive, my beloved son, this scapular of your order. Whoever dies clothed in this shall not suffer eternal fire." But why July 16th? This date marks when the Church officially established the Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. It's not just a celebration, it's a spiritual anniversary that opens heaven's treasury in a special way. On this day, Mary's maternal heart turns with particular tenderness toward her children, ready to shower blessings upon those who approach her with faith. Think of it like this. Imagine your mother had one special day each year when she promised to listen extra carefully to your requests, when her heart was especially open to helping you. That's what July 16th represents in the spiritual realm. Mary, our Heavenly Mother, has marked this day as uniquely her own. Now here's what separates genuine Catholic faith from empty superstition. A blessed object doesn't work like a magic charm. It works because of your faith, your relationship with God, and your desire to live as a true child of Mary. The power isn't in the object itself, it's in what the object represents and how it connects you to divine grace. When you have a crucifix blessed, you're not getting a good luck charm. You're receiving a sacramental that reminds you of Christ's sacrifice every time you see it. When you wear a blessed scapular, you're not wearing armor that automatically protects you. You're wearing a sign of your covenant with Mary, a reminder that you belong to her and she to you. This is why preparation of the heart matters so much. Before July 16th arrives, spend time in prayer. Ask yourself, am I seeking these blessings to draw closer to God, or am I treating them like insurance policies? Am I ready to live up to the promises that come with these sacred objects? Because here's the truth, Our Lady's intercession comes with responsibility. If you're going to wear the brown scapular, you should live like someone who belongs to Mary. If you're going to have your rosary blessed, you should actually pray it. If you're going to keep holy water in your home, you should use it with reverence, not desperation. The saints understood this perfectly. They knew that sacramentals are bridges between earth and heaven, channels through which grace flows when approached with proper faith and intention. So as we prepare to discover these 5 sacred objects, prepare your heart as well. Open yourself to Mary's maternal love. Trust in her promises, and remember, she wants to protect you even more than you want to be protected. Now that we understand the spiritual foundation, let's discover exactly which objects Our Lady wants to bless with special power on her feast day. Speaking of deepening your spiritual life and understanding the power of sacramentals, I want to share something special with you. For those who truly want to strengthen their prayer life and experience the miraculous power of the Rosary, we've created a comprehensive guide that can transform your spiritual journey. It's called The Power of the Rosary with Padre Pio, Miracles, Protection and Divine Graces. This spiritual treasure will help you discover how to pray the Rosary with deeper devotion. Learn about the miracles and testimonies of those who have experienced its power, and understand Padre Pio's most profound teachings about prayer. You'll receive a 30-day prayer guide with daily intentions to strengthen your faith, plus special prayers for protection, healing, and spiritual liberation. The Rosary was Padre Pio's greatest weapon, and today it can become yours too. This isn't just another religious book. It's a practical companion that thousands of people have used to deepen their relationship with Mary and experience her protection in their daily lives. Don't miss this opportunity to strengthen your spiritual life with material that has already helped countless souls. To download your copy, simply click the link pinned in the comments. Now let's return to those 5 sacred objects that Our Lady of Mount Carmel wants to bless with special graces on July 16th. Let's begin with the most powerful of all, the brown scapular of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. This isn't just a piece of cloth. It's a covenant between you and the Mother of God, sealed with a promise that reaches beyond the grave itself. When Our Lady appeared to St. Simon Stock, she didn't offer suggestions or recommendations. She made a solemn promise: whoever dies wearing this scapular shall not suffer eternal fire. Think about the weight of those words. The Queen of Heaven, the Mother of the Savior, guaranteeing your eternal salvation through this simple sacramental. But here's what many Catholics miss. The scapular must be properly blessed and imposed by a priest according to the Church's ritual. It's not enough to simply buy one and put it on. July 16th is the perfect day to receive this imposition if you haven't already, or to renew your commitment to Mary by having your scapular blessed again. I remember speaking with Father Michael, a priest who has imposed thousands of scapulars over his 40 years of ministry. He told me about a young mother who came to him on July the 16th, tears in her eyes, carrying a worn scapular that had belonged to her grandmother. "Father," she said, "my grandmother wore this every day until she died peacefully in her sleep. I want that same heavenly protection for my children." That's the power we're talking about, generational protection flowing from Mary's maternal heart. If your scapular is old or damaged, get a new one and have it blessed on Our Lady's feast day. If you've never worn one, July 16th is your invitation to enter into this sacred covenant. When you wear it, you're declaring to heaven and earth, I belong to Mary and Mary belongs to me. But the scapular doesn't stand alone in your spiritual armor. The rosary is heaven's weapon against the forces of darkness. St. Padre Pio, that mighty warrior of prayer, declared, the rosary is the weapon for these times. When you have your rosary blessed on July 16th, you're not just getting a prayer tool blessed. You're arming yourself with ammunition that demons fear. A blessed rosary becomes a sacramental that carries special grace. Every time you touch those beads, every Hail Mary you pray becomes an arrow shot straight into the heart of evil. The enemy trembles before the sound of the rosary because he knows its power to convert hearts, heal families, and change the world. Here's what most people don't understand. A blessed rosary doesn't just help you pray better. It becomes a sign of your consecration to Mary that you can carry anywhere. In your pocket, your purse, your car. The very presence of that blessed rosary is a declaration that you walk under Mary's mantle. Consider bringing multiple rosaries to be blessed on July 16th. Keep one for yourself. Give others as gifts to family members or friends. Imagine the ripple effect of grace when you place a blessed rosary in the hands of someone who needs Mary's intercession. Your rosary, blessed on Our Lady's feast day, becomes more than beads and wire. It becomes a lifeline to heaven, a direct connection to the heart of the woman who crushed the serpent's head. Your home needs to visibly belong to Mary, and there's no better way to declare this than through a blessed image of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. This isn't about decoration. This is about enthronement, about crowning Mary as Queen of your domestic church. When you place a blessed image of Our Lady of Mount Carmel in your home, you're creating a focal point for prayer, a reminder of her constant presence and intercession. Every time family members pass by that image, they're reminded that this household belongs to the Mother of God. Choose a place of honor for this image, not hidden in a corner or relegated to a bedroom, but somewhere central where the whole family can see it. The living room, the kitchen, the entrance hallway. Somewhere that declares, as for me and my house, we serve the Lord and we honor His Mother. After bringing your image home from its July 16th blessing, gather your family for a simple enthronement prayer. Say something like, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, we give you our home. Guard it from all evil. Bring the peace of your Son Jesus to everyone who lives here. Help us to be worthy of calling ourselves your children. A blessed image isn't just a picture, it's a window to heaven, a constant invitation for Mary to watch over your family with her maternal gaze. Place it with reverence, honor it with prayer, and trust in the heavenly protection it brings. These three sacramentals form a powerful trinity of protection that most Catholics completely overlook. Holy water purifies and reminds us of our baptism. Blessed salt has exorcistic properties, used since biblical times as a sign of covenant and purification. Sacred oil can be used to anoint the sick or protect doorways and windows from evil influences. The devil despises holy water because every drop represents the blood of Christ shed for our salvation. When you sprinkle holy water throughout your home, you're claiming that space for Christ. You're saying, this territory belongs to heaven, not to the powers of darkness. Blessed salt can be placed in the corners of your home, creating a spiritual boundary that evil cannot cross. It's not superstition. It's using the sacramentals that the Church has blessed for our protection for nearly 2,000 years. Sacred oil, blessed on July 16th, can be used to make the sign of the cross on doorframes, asking Our Lady of Mount Carmel to guard the entrances to your home. You're creating layers of heavenly protection that most families never even consider. Take containers to church on July 16th. Bottles for holy water, small jars for salt, tiny vials for oil. Ask the priest to bless them with the proper prayers. Then use them with faith, not fear. Sprinkle the holy water while praying. Place the salt while trusting in Mary's intercession. Anoint with oil while asking for her maternal care. These aren't magical potions. They're sacred tools that dispose your soul to receive grace and remind evil that it has no power in a home consecrated to God. Here's the object most Catholics forget, yet it might be the most important for your daily protection. Personal religious items like medals, crosses, and small devotional objects. Do you have a miraculous medal? A cross you wear around your neck? Small religious keychains or pocket tokens? Religious jewelry that's been gathering dust in a drawer? July 16th is the perfect day to have all of these blessed with special power. A blessed medal isn't a lucky charm, but it is a sacramental sign that prepares your soul for grace and provides heavenly protection. When you wear a blessed cross, you're carrying the instrument of your salvation. You're making a public declaration of faith that strengthens your resolve and reminds you of your identity as a child of God. Think about this. You probably carry your phone everywhere, your keys, your wallet. Why not carry a blessed medal or small cross? Why not have a constant reminder of heaven's care right there in your pocket? Many people want to give religious gifts, but don't know how to make them meaningful. Having medals or small crosses blessed on Our Lady's feast day turns them into powerful channels of grace. A blessed medal given with love becomes a seed of faith for the recipient. Even small holy cards or prayer cards can and should be blessed. Place them in your car, your office, your purse. These little reminders of faith, blessed on July 16th, become seeds of grace scattered throughout your daily life. Don't underestimate the power of these small sacramentals. Sometimes the most humble objects carry the greatest graces, especially when they're blessed on the feast day of the Queen of Heaven herself. Now that you know what objects to have blessed, let's talk about exactly how to make July 16th a day of powerful preparation for you and your family. Start gathering your items at least a week before the feast day. Don't wait until the last minute and rush to the store on July 15th. This preparation time is itself a form of prayer, a way of showing Our Lady that you're serious about receiving her intercession. Make a checklist. Do you need a new brown scapular? Is your current rosary in good condition, or should you get a fresh one? Do you have a beautiful image of Our Lady of Mount Carmel for your home? Have you bought containers for holy water, salt and oil? Are there medals or crosses you want blessed? The night before July 16th, place all these items in a clean bag or basket. This isn't just practical organization, it's a ritual of reverence. You're preparing to bring these objects into God's presence for blessing. Pack everything in a neat, clean container. Bring your brown scapular, your rosary or multiple rosaries for gifts, your image of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, clean bottles for holy water, small containers for salt, tiny vials for oil, and any medals, crosses, or religious jewelry you want blessed. Don't forget items you might want to give as gifts. This is a perfect opportunity to bless religious items that you can share with family members, friends, or anyone who needs heavenly protection. Arrive at church early, before or after Mass, when the priest has time to speak with you. Don't approach during the liturgy or when he's clearly busy with other duties. Simply say, "Father, I'd like to have these religious items blessed in honor of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Could you please bless them for me?" Most priests will be delighted to help, especially on such an important Marian feast day. If your parish is celebrating a special Mass for Our Lady of Mount Carmel, there might be a communal blessing of religious articles. Take advantage of this beautiful opportunity to join with other faithful in receiving Mary's special graces. When you return home with your newly blessed sacramentals, treat this as a sacred moment. Don't just toss everything in a drawer and forget about it. First, place your blessed image of Our Lady of Mount Carmel in its place of honor. Gather your family and pray together. Our Lady of Mount Carmel, we welcome you into our home. Protect our family from all harm. Help us to live as your faithful children. Bring the peace and love of your Son Jesus into every corner of this house. Next, use your holy water to bless each room of your home. Make the sign of the cross with the holy water in every doorway, saying, "In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit." Mary, Queen of Mount Carmel, guard this space. Place small amounts of blessed salt in the corners of your home, asking for Mary's protection against all evil influences. Put on your blessed brown scapular with a prayer of consecration. Begin praying your blessed rosary that very day. Remember, these are sacramentals now. Treat them with respect and reverence. Don't let blessed items get lost, damaged, or treated carelessly. If a blessed object becomes worn out or broken, don't throw it away. Bury it respectfully in the ground or burn it reverently. Use these blessed sacramentals regularly. Pray your rosary daily. Wear your scapular faithfully. Look upon your blessed image with love. Use your holy water for protection and as a reminder of your baptism. The blessing isn't the end. It's the beginning of a deeper relationship with Our Lady of Mount Carmel. But here's the most important truth I need to share with you. Blessed objects are not magical shields that automatically protect you regardless of how you live. They are invitations to deeper faith, reminders of your commitment to God, and channels that work most powerfully when your heart is open to grace. Our Lady of Mount Carmel doesn't want you to simply collect blessed objects like insurance policies. She wants you to live like someone who truly belongs to her Son. The brown scapular is most powerful when worn by someone striving to live in a state of grace. The Blessed Rosary works miracles in the hands of someone who prays it with genuine devotion. Think of it this way: if you were invited to live in a palace, you wouldn't dress in rags or behave like a beggar. You'd conduct yourself worthy of your royal residence. When you carry these blessed sacramentals, you're carrying signs that you belong to the royal family of heaven. Live like it. This means regular confession to keep your soul clean. It means genuine prayer, not just rushed recitations. It means treating others with the love and mercy that Mary shows to you. It means turning away from sin and turning toward the light of Christ. The saints understood this perfectly. They didn't see sacramentals as separate from their spiritual life. They saw them as woven into the very fabric of their relationship with God. Saint Therese wore her scapular while living radical trust in God's mercy. St. John Vianney prayed his rosary while serving the poorest souls with heroic charity. When you approach July 16th with this understanding, something beautiful happens. The blessed objects become not just tools of protection, but instruments of transformation. They don't just shield you from evil, they draw you closer to good. They don't just defend you from attacks, they strengthen you for growth. Mary's maternal promise extends far beyond protection from hell. She promises to walk with you through every struggle, to intercede for you in every need, and to present you to her Son as one of her own beloved children. That's the real power of these sacramentals. They connect you to a mother's love that never fails. So here we are, my friends. We've discovered the 5 sacred treasures that Our Lady of Mount Carmel wants to bless with special power on July 16th. The brown scapular, with its promise of eternal protection, the Holy Rosary as your weapon against darkness, sacred images to crown Mary as Queen of your home, holy water, salt and oil to purify and guard your living space, and those precious personal items like medals and crosses that carry heaven's care wherever you go. This isn't just about having religious objects blessed. This is about entering into a deeper covenant with the Mother of God. This is about transforming your home into a sanctuary of faith and your life into a testimony of trust in Mary's maternal care. July 16th is coming. The question is, will you be ready? Will you approach Our Lady's feast day with empty hands? Or will you come bearing these 5 sacred objects, ready to receive the extraordinary graces she wants to pour out upon you? I want to ask something special from each of you watching this video. In the comments below, tell us which of these 5 objects you're planning to have blessed this July 16th. Maybe it's your first brown scapular, or a new rosary to replace one that's worn out. Perhaps it's a beautiful image of Our Lady of Mount Carmel for your living room, or containers for holy water to bless your home. And here's what I'd love even more. Tell us for whom you'd like us to pray. Is there someone in your family who needs Our Lady's special intercession? A friend going through difficult times? A loved one who's lost their faith? Let's form a mighty prayer chain leading up to July 16th, asking Our Lady of Mount Carmel to cover all of our intentions with her maternal mantle. This is how we build the kingdom of heaven, one blessed object at a time, one family at a time, one prayer at a time. When you share this video with 3 people who need to hear this message, you're not just sharing information. You're sharing hope, you're sharing protection, you're sharing the very love of Mary herself. Subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell, because there's so much more that Our Lady wants to teach us about living under her care. Share this video with everyone you love, because love shared is love multiplied. Remember the promise Our Lady made to St. Simon Stock. Whoever dies wearing this scapular shall not suffer eternal fire. But her love doesn't stop at death. Her protection doesn't end at the grave. She walks with you through every trial, stands beside you in every struggle, and presents you to her Son as one of her own cherished children. May Our Lady of Mount Carmel cover you always with her sacred mantle. May she bless your home, protect your family, and lead you safely to the eternal joy of heaven. Go in peace, children of Mary, knowing that you are loved beyond measure. Have you ever felt like your home needed special protection? Have you noticed how some houses seem to carry a different kind of peace, as if they're wrapped in invisible armor? Dear friends, August 11th is no ordinary day. It's the feast of St. Clare of Assisi, a woman whose life was so pure, so devoted, that even today her protection reaches into our homes. And here's something that might surprise you. Padre Pio himself had a deep reverence for St. Clare and often recommended a simple but powerful practice for this sacred day. If you believe in St. Clare's protection over your home, write in the comments, "St. Clare, protect my home." Your faith matters, and this simple act connects you to centuries of believers who have experienced her miraculous intercession. Now, I'm going to share something with you that Padre Pio recommended to families seeking protection, something so simple you might be tempted to dismiss it, but so powerful that those who practice it report extraordinary peace in their households. Today, you'll discover exactly what to place on your door on St. Clare's Day, and why this humble saint became one of the most trusted protectors of Christian homes. This isn't just another tradition. It's a spiritual practice that has shielded families from harm, brought peace to troubled households, and opened doors to blessings that many thought were impossible. St. Clare understood something about spiritual warfare that we desperately need to remember today. Your home isn't just where you live, it's your sanctuary, your refuge, and it deserves the protection that only heaven can provide. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal has the power to transform not just your August 11th ani, but your entire relationship with the sacred space you call home. St. Clare of Assisi wasn't born to be a revolutionary, but that's exactly what she became. Born into nobility in 1194, she could have lived a life of comfort and luxury. Instead, at 18, she heard St. Francis preach and knew immediately that her life belonged to God. She literally ran away from home on Palm Sunday, cutting off her beautiful hair as a symbol of her complete surrender. But here's what makes St. Clare extraordinary. She didn't just embrace poverty for herself, she fought for it. When church authorities tried to give her community property and wealth, she refused. She wanted nothing that could distract from pure devotion. This radical trust in God's provision made her a beacon of spiritual protection. When you have nothing to lose, you become fearless in defending what matters. Padre Pio understood this connection intimately. He often said that St. Clare's purity of heart made her prayers particularly powerful for protecting families and homes. She had stripped away everything that could compromise her spiritual authority, making her intercession incredibly effective against evil influences. So what exactly did Padre Pio recommend for St. Clare's Day? He suggested placing a small image or medal of St. Clare on your front door, blessed if possible, while saying a simple prayer asking for her protection over your household. But this isn't about superstition. It's about faith in action. The physical act becomes a declaration that this home belongs under heaven's protection. Think about it this way. When you put a security system sign in your yard, you're announcing that your property is protected. When you place St. Clare's image on your door, you're making a much more powerful statement that this home is under divine protection. And unlike human security systems, this protection never fails, never has technical difficulties, and never expires. St. Clare became the patron saint of television and electronic communications in 1958, but long before that, she was known for her ability to see spiritual realities. One of her most famous miracles happened when Saracen soldiers were attacking her convent. She was too sick to stand, but she had herself carried to the wall facing the attackers. Holding up the Blessed Sacrament, she prayed, and the soldiers fled in terror. She literally stood between danger and those she loved. This is the same protective power she brings to your home today. When you invoke her intercession, you're asking someone who has actually faced down supernatural and natural threats to stand guard over your family. She knows how to fight battles in the spiritual realm that we can't even see. But there's something else Padre Pio emphasized about St. Clare, her ability to bring clarity to confused situations. Her very name means clear or bright. Families who regularly seek her intercession often report that arguments decrease, misunderstandings clear up faster, and there's simply more peace in their daily interactions. It's as if her presence brings the light of truth into dark corners of family life. The tradition isn't complicated. On August 11th, or really any time you feel your home needs extra protection, take a small image of St. Clare. It could be a holy card, a medal, or even a simple printout of her picture. Hold it in your hands and pray something like this. St. Clare, you who gave up everything to follow Christ, protect this home and all who enter here. Guard us from evil, bring us peace, and help us to live with the same purity of heart that made you so powerful in prayer. Then place it on or near your front door. Some families tape it inside the doorframe, others attach it to a wreath or decoration. The location matters less than the faith behind the action. You're essentially putting your home under her mantle of protection. What makes this practice so effective is that it combines several spiritual principles. First, you're acknowledging that your home needs divine protection. This humility opens the door to grace. Second, you're actively participating in your family's spiritual defense rather than just hoping for the best. Third, you're connecting with a saint who specialized in protection and had a direct relationship with God's power. Padre Pio often reminded people that saints aren't distant figures. There are spiritual family members who want to help us. St. Clare, in particular, seems to have a special love for families trying to create holy homes in a chaotic world. Maybe it's because she understood what it meant to leave everything familiar and trust completely in God's provision. Here's what's beautiful about this tradition. It doesn't require expensive materials or complicated rituals. St. Clare, who chose poverty, responds to simple faith more than elaborate displays. A dollar store holy card, placed with genuine devotion, carries the same spiritual power as an expensive statue, because she looks at the heart, not the price tag. As we prepare to dive deeper into how this protection actually works in daily life, remember that St. Clare's greatest miracle wasn't stopping an army. It was living every single day in complete trust that God would provide and protect. That's the kind of faith she wants to share with your family. Speaking of protection and daily spiritual practices, many families have discovered that combining St. Clare's intercession with the powerful prayer of the Rosary creates an incredible shield around their homes. The Rosary was Padre Pio's greatest weapon against evil, and he often encouraged families to make it a central part of their daily protection routine. That's why we've created something special for families like yours who want to deepen their spiritual defenses. Our ebook, The Power of the Rosary with Padre Pio, Miracles, Protection and Divine Graces, will help you learn to pray the Rosary with greater devotion and depth, discover the miracles and testimonies of those who have experienced its power, understand Padre Pio's most impactful teachings about prayer, and receive a 30-day prayer guide with daily intentions to strengthen your faith, plus access to special prayers for protection, healing, and liberation. The Rosary was Padre Pio's greatest weapon, and today it can be yours too. Don't miss this opportunity to strengthen your spiritual life with material that has already helped thousands of people. To download it, just click the link pinned in the comments. Now let's talk about the prayer that makes this protection truly come alive. St. Clare didn't just live in silence. She was a woman of powerful, specific prayer. When you place her image on your door, it shouldn't be a silent gesture. Your words matter, and St. Clare responds to heartfelt requests for protection. Here's a prayer that incorporates the wisdom Padre Pio shared about approaching St. Clare. Blessed St. Clare, you who chose the narrow path and found it led to incredible spiritual power. I place my home under your protection. Just as you stood fearlessly before enemies with only your faith as a weapon, stand now between my family and any force that would harm us. Bring your clarity to our conversations, your peace to our disagreements, and your purity to our daily choices. Guard our doors, our windows, and our hearts. Let no evil enter here, and let only good come from this place. Through Christ our Lord, Amen. But here's something crucial that many people miss. The preparation matters as much as the prayer. St. Clare lived her entire life preparing for moments when her intercession would be needed. She fasted. She prayed constantly. She kept her heart pure through daily discipline. She understood that spiritual power comes from spiritual preparation. Before you place anything on your door, spend some time preparing your own heart. This isn't about perfection. St. Clare knows we're human and we struggle, but it is about intention. Ask yourself honestly, am I inviting St. Clare's protection while simultaneously allowing things into my home that work against God's will? Are there shows, conversations, habits, or attitudes that contradict the very protection I'm seeking? One family from the Midwest shared how this simple practice changed everything for them. They had been struggling with constant arguing, financial stress, and their teenage son was making dangerous choices. The mother decided to follow this tradition after reading about Padre Pio's devotion to St. Clare. She placed a small medal on their front door and prayed the prayer every morning for a week. Within 2 weeks, their son came home and admitted he had been hanging out with the wrong crowd. He said he kept thinking about how disappointed his family would be, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to change his path. The arguments between the parents decreased dramatically, and unexpected financial help arrived through a promotion the father had given up hoping for. Now you might think this is coincidence, but here's what that family understood. St. Clare's protection isn't magic, it's spiritual authority in action. When you genuinely invite her intercession, she begins working on hearts, circumstances, and spiritual atmospheres in ways we often can't see until the results appear. The object you place on your door becomes a physical reminder of an invisible reality. Every time you see it, you remember that your home is under heaven's protection. Every time guests notice it, it creates an opportunity to share your faith. Every time you leave and return home, you're reminded that this isn't just your house. It's a place where God dwells through your invitation. Some families create beautiful displays. A small wooden plaque with St. Clare's image, perhaps surrounded by olive branches or other symbols of peace. Others keep it simple with just a holy card tucked discreetly into the doorframe. St. Clare doesn't care about aesthetics. She cares about authenticity. Here's something fascinating about St. Clare's miracles. Many of them involved vision and clarity. She could see spiritual realities that others missed. When she gazed at the Blessed Sacrament, she sometimes saw visions of Christ's life. When enemies approached, she could perceive their true intentions. This gift of spiritual sight is part of what she offers to families who seek her protection. Families who regularly invoke St. Clare often report that they begin noticing things they previously missed. A parent suddenly realizes their child is struggling with something specific. A spouse recognizes patterns in their relationship that need attention. A family member gets a clear sense that they should avoid a particular situation or person. This isn't paranoia. It's the gift of spiritual discernment that comes from connecting with someone who saw clearly. The timing of August 11th isn't arbitrary either. In the liturgical calendar, this falls during a period when the Church traditionally focuses on spiritual purification and preparation. It's as if the entire spiritual atmosphere supports this kind of protective prayer during St. Clare's feast day. But here's what Padre Pio emphasized repeatedly: the protection doesn't stop on August 12th. Once you've genuinely placed your home under St. Clare's care, that protection continues as long as you continue to live in a way that welcomes it. The physical reminder on your door helps maintain your awareness of this ongoing spiritual reality. Think of it like a spiritual security system that never needs updating, never malfunctions, and never charges monthly fees. But unlike technological security, this protection works on the level of hearts and souls, not just physical threats. St. Clare's intercession can protect your family from influences that could destroy relationships, lead children astray, or rob your home of peace. The key is consistency. Make it a habit to acknowledge St. Clare's protection regularly. When you leave your house, briefly thank her for watching over it. When you return, acknowledge her faithfulness. When family conflicts arise, ask for her clarity. When you're worried about your children's choices, seek her intercession. She becomes not just a one-time helper, but a constant spiritual ally for your family's well-being. The beautiful thing about St. Clare's protection is that it grows stronger the more you acknowledge it. This isn't a once-a-year ritual that you perform and forget. It's the beginning of a year-round relationship with one of heaven's most powerful protectors of families. Many families discover that after experiencing St. Clare's intercession on August 11th, they naturally want to maintain that connection throughout the year. Some families choose the 11th of every month as a special day to renew their request for her protection. Others incorporate a brief prayer to St. Clare into their daily routine, perhaps when they lock the door at night or when they're leaving for work in the morning. Here's what's remarkable about developing this ongoing relationship. St. Clare seems to specialize in the everyday battles that can make or break a family's peace. She's not just for dramatic emergencies. She's for the Tuesday evening when everyone's tired and irritable and words start getting sharp. She's for the moment when your teenager is deciding whether to go along with friends who might lead them into trouble. She's for those financial worries that keep you awake at 3 a.m., wondering how you'll manage next month's bills. Padre Pio understood this intimate daily aspect of St. Clare's care because he himself relied on the saints for ordinary struggles, not just extraordinary ones. He would often tell families that the saints are like older siblings who have gone ahead to show us the way home. St. Clare having lived through her own family conflicts when she chose religious life against her parents' wishes, knows exactly what it feels like when household harmony is threatened. One of the most powerful aspects of St. Clare's intercession is how she helps families communicate with greater clarity and less defensiveness. Remember, her name means clear or bright, and this clarity extends to family relationships. Families who regularly seek her intercession often find that misunderstandings resolve more quickly, that people are more willing to apologize when they've been wrong, and that conversations happen with less hidden agenda and more genuine care. This makes perfect sense when you consider St. Clare's relationship with St. Francis. Their friendship was built on absolute honesty, mutual respect, and shared commitment to God's will above personal comfort. She learned how to have relationships that were both deeply caring and completely truthful. These are exactly the skills that struggling families need most. The connection between Padre Pio and St. Clare runs deeper than many people realize. Both of them understood that true spiritual power comes from complete surrender to God's will, even when that surrender is costly. Padre Pio bore the physical wounds of Christ and endured decades of misunderstanding from church authorities. St. Clare gave up wealth, family approval, and social status to follow her calling. Neither of them chose the easy path, but both of them gained incredible spiritual authority precisely because of their sacrifices. This shared understanding makes their combined intercession particularly powerful for families facing difficult choices. When parents need wisdom about how much freedom to give a struggling teenager, when spouses are trying to balance career demands with family needs, when adult children are caring for aging parents while raising their own kids, these complex situations require the kind of clarity that comes from people who have actually lived through spiritual battles and emerged victorious. Teaching this devotion to your children creates something beautiful. It gives them a concrete way to think about protecting their future homes. When your daughter grows up knowing that homes can be placed under heavenly protection, she's more likely to make choices about roommates, decorating, and daily habits that support rather than undermine that protection. When your son understands that spiritual authority comes from living with integrity, he's more prepared to be the kind of husband and father who can actually guard his family's well-being. Many families create simple traditions around St. Clare that help children remember her protection. Some families have a small statue of St. Clare in their kitchen and briefly ask for her intercession before family meals. Others teach their children to say a quick prayer to St. Clare when they're worried about something happening at school or with friends. The goal isn't to create complicated religious obligations, but to help children grow up understanding that they're part of a spiritual family that extends beyond just the people living in their house. St. Clare becomes like a spiritual aunt who's always available to help, always trustworthy, and always interested in their well-being. As August 11th approaches each year, these families often spend a few days preparing together. They might read stories about St. Clare's life, talk about areas where their family needs extra protection or clarity, and plan how they want to renew their request for her intercession. Children who grow up with these traditions often continue them in their own homes as adults, creating a legacy of spiritual protection that extends across generations. This is exactly what Padre Pio hoped would happen when he recommended devotion to St. Clare. He wasn't just thinking about solving immediate problems. He was thinking about building spiritual strength that could support families through decades of challenges and changes. The beauty of St. Clare's protection is that it adapts to whatever your family needs. Young families might focus on protection for small children and wisdom for parenting decisions. Families with teenagers might emphasize clarity in communication and protection from harmful influences. Empty nesters might seek St. Clare's intercession for adult children making major life choices and for maintaining strong family bonds across distances. As we reach the end of our time together today, I want you to remember something powerful. Your home is more than just where you sleep and eat. It's the foundation where your family's faith either grows stronger or gradually weakens. It's where your children learn what it means to trust God, and where you model what it looks like to live under heaven's protection. St. Clare understood that our physical spaces matter in our spiritual journey. She transformed a simple convent into a place where God's presence was so real that enemies fled in terror. You have that same opportunity with your home. When you place her image on your door and invite her protection, you're not just performing a religious ritual, you're making a statement about who has authority over your family's well-being. Padre Pio lived his entire life knowing that we're never alone in our struggles. The saints are real, their prayers are powerful, and their desire to help us is genuine. St. Clare is waiting to be invited into your family's daily life, ready to bring the same clarity and protection that made her such a formidable force against evil in her own time. If these truths have touched your heart today, write "Thank you, St. Clare" in the comments. Your gratitude helps this message reach families who desperately need to know that their homes can be sanctuaries of peace in a chaotic world. Before you go, I want to share something from my heart. This channel exists because we believe that every family deserves to know about the incredible spiritual resources available to them. Messages like today's about St. Clare's protection have the power to transform homes and strengthen faith. But they can only reach people if we work together as a community. Your support means everything to this mission. When you hit that like button, you're telling others that this message matters. When you share this video, you're potentially placing St. Clare's protection over families who have never heard her name. When you subscribe and become a member of our channel, you're joining a spiritual family committed to spreading the wisdom of saints like Padre Pio and St. Clare. We're not just creating content, we're building a community of faithful families who support each other in living out these beautiful traditions. Your participation makes you part of something much bigger than entertainment. You're helping preserve and share spiritual treasures that can change lives for generations. Thank you for being part of this mission. Together, we're bringing heaven's protection to homes everywhere. There's something else about St. Clare's protection that Padre Pio often emphasized, and it's crucial for understanding why this practice is so effective. St. Clare didn't just pray for protection, she lived in a way that made her prayers incredibly powerful. Her entire life was a preparation for the moments when her intercession would be needed most. This teaches us something vital about how spiritual protection actually works. It's not enough to simply ask for help and then continue living in ways that contradict what we're praying for. When you invite St. Clare's protection over your home, you're also accepting an invitation to live with greater purity of intention, just as she did. What does this look like in practical terms? It means being more intentional about what you allow into your home through television, internet, music, and conversations. St. Clare gave up worldly entertainment not because it was evil, but because she wanted nothing to compete with her focus on God. You don't have to become a monk or nun, but you can ask yourself, does this show, this music, this conversation support the kind of peaceful, holy atmosphere I'm asking St. Clare to protect? It also means being more conscious of how you treat family members. St. Clare was known for her extraordinary kindness and patience, even when dealing with difficult people. If you're asking for her intercession to bring peace to your home, she might also be working on your own heart to help you become a person who contributes to that peace rather than disrupting it. Many families discover that St. Clare's protection becomes a catalyst for positive changes they had been putting off. Maybe it's finally having that honest conversation with a family member. Maybe it's setting healthier boundaries with relatives who bring drama. Maybe it's being more generous with forgiveness when someone in the household makes mistakes. Here's something beautiful that happens. When you begin living in alignment with the protection you're seeking, that protection becomes more tangible and more effective. It's like the difference between asking a friend for help while continuing to ignore their advice versus asking for help and then actually implementing their suggestions. St. Clair responds more powerfully to families who are genuinely trying to create homes worthy of heaven's protection. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. St. Clair herself faced moments of doubt, family opposition, and physical suffering. She understands human weakness. But she also knows the difference between people who are genuinely trying to grow in holiness and people who want spiritual benefits without spiritual effort. Padre Pio often reminded people that the saints are not distant figures who occasionally help us. They're active partners in our spiritual journey. When you develop a real relationship with St. Clair, you start noticing her guidance in small daily decisions. You might feel prompted to check on a neighbor, to have a difficult conversation with kindness instead of anger, or to choose forgiveness when resentment would be easier. One of the most powerful aspects of St. Clair's intercession is how she helps families recognize and resist spiritual attacks before they escalate. Every family faces periods when everything seems to go wrong at once. Financial problems, health issues, relationship conflicts, and work stress all hitting simultaneously. These aren't always just coincidences. Sometimes they're coordinated spiritual attacks designed to overwhelm and discourage faithful families. St. Clair, who literally faced down armed enemies through prayer, knows how to recognize and counter these attacks. Families under her protection often report that they develop better spiritual discernment. They start noticing patterns, how certain influences consistently bring division, how specific situations repeatedly trigger family conflicts, how particular relationships always seem to drain their peace. With this awareness comes the ability to respond spiritually rather than just emotionally. Instead of getting caught up in the drama, they step back and ask St. Clair for wisdom and protection. They pray before having difficult conversations. They seek her intercession before making major decisions. They ask for her clarity when situations seem confusing or overwhelming. This is the mature spiritual life that Padre Pio wanted for every Catholic family, not just going through religious motions, but developing real spiritual skills that help navigate life's challenges with grace and wisdom. St. Clair's protection becomes the foundation for this growth, providing the peace and clarity necessary for spiritual maturity to develop. When August 11th arrives, you'll be ready not just to perform a ritual, but to deepen a relationship that can transform your family's entire spiritual journey.